everyone, it's Friday, TGIF, and this Friday is so special because it is the Black Friday. What great Black Friday deals have you got? I know some airlines are having some awesome deals flying to some destinations, some stores are having great discounts. So tell me, what deals have you got? Drop in the comment section. This could be very useful to someone out there who are looking for certain deals. Today we are going to be on our on-demand series because it is the weekend, and our topic would be on some of the countries I've visited, my unique experience, and how they stand out for me. So I wouldn't actually be mentioning all the countries I've visited in these videos. I'll just pick out some of the ones I've actually lived in. Spent minimum of 3 weeks to 1 month there, and how they stand out for me. And based on how I've visited these countries, the number one on this list is Singapore. Singapore is a top country for me because of how technologically advanced it is and how tourist friendly Singapore is. So for example, as a tourist in Singapore, they have like these tourist SIM cards. I think it's like less than $10. So it could be like 7 days, 2 weeks, or 1 month. And usually you'll get a minimum of 100 gigs of data. And Singapore has one of the best internet connectivities I've seen out there. Singapore has really cool infrastructures. From the moment you arrive Singapore, the airports, oh my God, the airports, the structure there is so wonderful. Singapore has one of the best airports out there. I think at some point they were ranked #1 airport, and then they have this beautiful waterfall. They designed it so wonderfully, like you could just take a walk around, see very nice structures, take some pictures, go to the canteen, see things, admire the environment. If you don't visit Singapore for anything else, you should visit Singapore for the airport. And how I got to fall in love with Singapore, because I was coming from Dubai, and you know how Dubai has like all these high-rise buildings, beautiful lightings, and all of that. So when I first got into Singapore, before I got into the main city, I was kind of like underwhelmed because I was coming from this, flashy kind of city to Singapore. But then by the time I got into the city, oh my word, Singapore has really great structure. Singapore is so beautiful. Like even the road, the transport system, like what is there not to love about Singapore? Singapore has all these very beautiful gardens, the parks. I went to the Universal Studio in Singapore, and for me, who loves the roller coaster, I even had to go back there a second time just to have a feel of me riding on the roller coasters. The roller coasters there could go as fast as 80 kilometers per hour. And man, the adrenaline, it was so beautiful. And did you know food is so cheap in Singapore? If you had $5 and you went to a restaurant, you could like get a healthy, balanced diet. And if you're not even like if you're not even somebody who eats a large quantity of food, you can't even finish the food. If you go to the sautés, there are like a variety of food and grills. Like these are things that one should really do in Singapore. Have the street food. The culture in Singapore is so diverse. People who had ancestry from China, Malaysia, India, and other parts of Asia. So like all this fusion comes into one to make Singapore. Singapore has 4 official languages, of which English is one of them. And to get around Singapore is just so easy. The train transportation is just so connected. All you need to do is to get a card and always recharge it. Or even if you don't want to get a card, you can just use your debit or credit card and just tap along. Usually a ride could be like $1 or a bit more than that. And the underground is so connected that if you've not gotten to your destination, you don't need to keep coming out and going back. Like you can even decide to stay on the ground all day, just going from one train to another train to another train. You don't need to keep coming out and going back in and coming out and going back in, because it's just so connected. It's like a circular connections then with other lines. So it's just so easy for you to connect on the ground. And this makes Singapore so beautiful. And if you're somebody who loves to ride bikes, Singapore has really great bike lanes, and you'd always see people, jogging. And usually there are lots of sit outs out there. Just come out with friends and families, sit and have great evening, or even have a drink or have a chat with friends. Yeah. Singapore, all these things about Singapore make it like an awesome place. Singapore is like that kind of place that you can live in and, have almost everything you need so easily reachable, because this is something for me that I always look out for in a city. For example, can I easily get certain kinds of food? Can I easily go to certain kind of recreation center? Like for me, the parks, like you go to the water parks, the theme parks, the aquarium, like, so there's this variety of places, the gardens, like you can be in Singapore 1 month and have something new to do almost every day. So this stands out for me in Singapore. I spent 1 month in Singapore, and it was a 1 month that was well worth it. Going to number two on this list is London. And London easily stands out for me because of how diverse it is. You have people from different races and cultures. And the best part of London for me is how easy it is for me to get items from back home. Because, one of the reasons people miss home is, can they easily get certain food? Can they easily get certain experience? And because of how diverse London is, like, that is not even a question. Like, it's just something you can get a mix of what you're used to back home and a mix of other cultures and other things out there. And when I was in London, yeah, I mean, I knew that I wasn't in Nigeria, but somehow it just still felt like I was back home, because almost everything I wanted, almost all the Nigerian experience I wanted, I could find it live in London. And this made London, a great experience for me. And every single time I visited London, as a correct Igbo woman, one of the first things I look for is Isiewu. Accompany it with some origin. Man, this combo is like heavenly for me. And getting access to, like all the Nigerian food ingredients is, you just need to snap your finger and you get it. Sometimes even cheaper than you will get it back in Nigeria. Yes. And this makes London a very great place for me. So the third on this list is Barbados. Barbados is another place I spent a month, and why Barbados stands out for me is it's an island, the weather, it can be windy, the culture there, and the people there were just like so friendly. Everybody just like saying hello, you just feel good in Barbados. There's this feeling, because people are friendly. There are like all the water activities. The water is so blue and beautiful, and I had one of the best experience there because of how friendly the people were and the weather. Next on this list is Mexico. Viva Mexico! So Mexico is the kind of place I call value for money. And I call it value for money because things are very affordable in Mexico. And not just are they affordable, you're getting quality for what you're paying for. I mean, you can get almost anything you need. There was nothing I was looking for that I didn't find in Mexico, and they came at a very good price. And the internet there was so great. I was able to do lots of activities at a good price. Mexico, when I went to Mexico, I first visited Cancun and then I went to CDMX, that's Mexico City. In Cancun was where I had my best experiences in water sports. And when I went to CDMX, I went to one of the drop zones for my first skydiving. And oh my God, it was so lovely. So if you're looking for a value for money kind of place, then Mexico is the place to be in. The next on this list is Lebanon. And Lebanon easily stands out for me because have you been to Lebanon? Have you seen how beautiful Lebanon is? Like Lebanon has, a touch of historical and modern looks. Like there's this kind of beauty that Lebanon has. And things are quite affordable in Lebanon, but most importantly, Lebanon was easily the most hospitable country I've been in. I spent 1 month in Lebanon, and I mean, from the airport, right from the taxi drivers to your apartment, like everybody is like so excited. They are like, trying to tell you about Lebanon, trying to tell you stories. People are very eager to help in Lebanon. And in Lebanon, so they speak Lebanese and French, and some also speak English. For me, I just barely speak French. And then my taxi drivers were always so excited to engage me in stories. And even though I barely responded, it just didn't discourage them from telling me stories. Even one time I got into a taxi, and then the guy is like, I know some nice spots. I would stop you and take beautiful shots of you. And oh my God, the pictures I got from these taxi drivers were so awesome. And Lebanon was just like when you go to restaurants, like wherever you go to, it was just as if like people were making all these efforts to make sure that they show you the best of Lebanon. Something else I loved about Lebanon. So if you know the landscape of Lebanon, so it's the coastal region and then the mountains. So if you're down, you're just close to the sea, and if you're up, you're close to the mountains. And in Lebanon was where I saw my first snow. So close to the sea, it's usually like a bit warmer and more sunny and all of that. But when you go up the mountain, it begins to get colder. So Lebanon is that one place that you could go from a sunny region to the snow in just about 1 hour. And there are a variety of places to go in Lebanon. I just couldn't even decide which was the favorite locations I visited in Lebanon. Like Lebanon is so beautiful, so hospitable, and the landscape, it's just something like there is nothing to not love about Lebanon. Next on this list is Kenya. Kenya is another value for money destination. And if I wanted to live in another African country, Kenya would actually be a top consideration. And especially if you're living in a place like Nairobi, Nairobi has easy access to all these services, and there's also like all these beautiful gardens. You could go take a walk, ride your bikes, or you could go to the mall, you could go to the arcade, you could go to the movies. Name it, almost anything you're looking for, you can find it in Nairobi. And if you're a lover of the safaris to see the wild animals, Kenya is also a very good destination for that. I mean, especially if you're going there during the migrations, you can see the animals in droves migrating from, one part of the region to another. Usually this is between Kenya and Tanzania. But if you also go in the non-migration seasons like I did, which is like December to January, you also stand the chance to see some animals and even the big five like I did. So it was just like such a great experience for me. In fact, I spent 2 months in Kenya. I was in Nairobi for 1 month and another 1 month in Mombasa. And oh my God, it was just such a great experience for me in Kenya. So now, moving on to, how I felt generally in some of these countries I visited as a Black woman and as a Nigerian. So when I was in Kenya and Tanzania, I mean, it was so easy for me to blend in. You can easily tell me apart only when I start speaking. And, I just felt really comfortable and I felt at home in all those places. So Dubai had this, life of a party kind of vibes. I was totally mesmerized by the buildings, the kind of lightings, and it was just so beautiful. But something that was out there in my face is, how I've taken for granted when you get a taxi and the taxi drivers would usually help you with your luggage and stuff like that. It just was a different experience in the Middle Eastern countries I visited. And it just felt strange to me, like I'm struggling with my luggage and the taxi driver couldn't care less. And yeah, it was like a new experience and it was one I was uncomfortable with. And then, in some of these countries, like black girls are highly stereotyped. But as long as you can look beyond this and, focus on the experience that you came for, it's usually like a very wonderful experience going to the desert, visiting the mall, going to the movies. And even in Dubai, I went to the tallest building in the world and I got to the very top. And the elevator, I think the elevator, I learned that it's the fastest in the world. Also, I had a very good experience in Qatar as well. So going to Singapore, I mean, Singapore is a wonderful place, but everybody's just like minding their business, going about their day-to-day life. And for somebody who is coming from a place like Nigeria where it's easy for people to relate and socialize and people getting into your business and saying hello and all of that. And then you're in this place that everybody's just minding their business and going about their day. Yeah, but I didn't feel like any different ways or any kind of stares or anything. But yeah, it was just a great experience for me in Singapore. I mean, in London, everybody's just minding their business. When I went to Barbados, everybody was just friendly and saying hello and all of that, and it was just like so beautiful. And then when they hear my accent, they're like, "Where are you from?" I'm like, "I'm from Nigeria." Some of them are so excited. They're like, "Oh, I would love to visit Nigeria someday. I'll visit some of the West African countries and come see what it's like." And in Mexico too, people were friendly, but because there was the language barrier, I was hardly able to speak with people. And in Lebanon, like I already mentioned, like people were so excited and eager to have conversations and all of that. Also, I think I'd say that because I visited most of these countries as a tourist, I was mostly shielded from, any sort of thing, both good and bad, that I might have experienced. And, I had really great experience in these places. And these are the destinations I've been to are destinations that I would easily love to go back to any day, anytime, and, have different experiences or even re-experience same kind of activities I had done in the past, because oh my god, like I think most of my trips have been well worth it. And there is always a new perspective in every place. And also something it does is that it makes you appreciate even better, like some of the things you saw growing up, some of the things that you just consider them as it's just regular, it's just like the day to day. But when you experience cultures from different perspectives, and it makes you like to appreciate some of the things about your own cultures even better, and make you like fall in love more with where you come from. And this is one of the things that make me love travels, because of how seeing different perspective and merging them, and understanding that there's a different kind of life out there. And guys, that is it for our session today. Like always, like, comment, subscribe, share, and share with me some of your travel experiences. I mean, I'm sure other people would love to learn, some of your unique experiences in certain places, especially if you're working in these places, if you're schooling, or if you're also just a nomad like myself. I hope to see you in my next video. Until then, take care, make good choices, stay safe.
On est vraiment toute
Bye!
seule et ivrée dans la forêt.